Okay, and then the most controversial of the bunch, of course, is the WBC ordering Charlo versus Triple G as a title eliminator for the mandatory spot for the WBC middleweight title that is now owned by Saul Canelo Alvarez. And this is, of course, a position that Charlo has already had since at least April of this year. But I think even going back before that, he was already the mandatory, and now is being told he has to face Triple G to be the mandatory.
This is what I want to know. Why isn't he the mandatory to fight Canelo? And why does Canelo get a... I read somewhere that it's normal for... that after you win the title, the WBC will allow you to like a voluntary
defense.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even a defense because he's actually going to super middleweight.
Yeah, he's moving up.
Yeah, so it's not even really a defense of his title.
Why the hell is he moving up?
A lot of reasons I can think of. Actually.
Yeah, but I think the opponent that he's fighting is why he's moving up. But
what do you mean by that? Elaborate.
He's gonna be a lot faster, more skilled.
Meaning
Equal
Rocky
power.
Fielding is not on his level?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, I think one of the main reasons is, he can pick up the super middleweight belt, which adds to his pound-for-pound legacy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an easier fight than either Charlo or Triple G. I also think that Rocky Fielding, coming from across the pond, actually brings something different to it than Charlo does, meaning fans will come out in support of Rocky Fielding. And I don't know how much of a draw Charlo will make on pay-per-view. It's sort of a lack of pay-per-view opponents.
I think he's more dangerous, right? You think he's more risk?
I do. I think he's riskier than Rocky Fielding. So basically you get a belt in another weight division. You add your pound-for-pound legacy. It's a guy who brings something to the table in terms of viewers and fans for pay-per-view that Charlo doesn't bring. Just generally speaking, it's just a safer move, and it turns out being a good move for his legacy and probably for pay-per-view numbers.
Well, here's the thing. What if he goes 168, he wins the title at 168, Canelo and Charlo happens. Say Charlo wins, I guess Canelo vacates the belt at 160, and then Charlo gets it, and Canelo doesn't have to fight him anymore.
Canelo and Charlo happens? Oh, and Charlo beats Canelo?
No. Canelo just goes to 168 and stays there. He vacates the belt, right?
Oh yeah, eventually he would vacate if he.
So then he'll never fight Charlo.
The other thing that I think is interesting is at super middleweight. That's where Callum Smith just picked up the other belt as part of the World Boxing Super Series. Canelo, of course, has a victory over Liam Smith.
It's his brother, right?
Yeah, over his brother, Liam Smith. And it's not, in my mind, it's not inconceivable that he could then go and unify in a fight with Callum Smith. That would be something that you could sell on DAZN in the UK. Again, like you look at it and you're like, Canelo has no home anymore. There's no HBO.
Yeah.
Right? There's no HBO. So Canelo is going to be on the lookout for big money pay-per-view type fights. And
but can you imagine Canelo at 168 versus David Benavidez or Zurdo Ramirez or anybody else that's got a belt at 168? I think he could beat those guys.
I think those would be great fights. The problem if you're Canelo is that nobody's going to pay to see them.
Really?
No. I mean, we would, right? Like you and I would pay to see David Benavidez fight Canelo.
Hell yeah.
The people who are watching the show, I'm sure, would pay to see David Benavidez fight Canelo. But it's not going to sell 1.5 million pay-per-views the way that Triple G did because nobody knows outside of us who David Benavidez is. That's the great thing about Callum Smith or Rocky Fielding is that because because Callum Smith is an English national and he comes from the Smith lineage and everybody knows who he is, when you go on pay-per-view, you have a whole different audience who's going to pay for it besides the fans that you're bringing. So Canelo brings all the sort of Mexican-American fans who will purchase the pay-per-view. And someone like Callum Smith, who just won the World Boxing Super Series, is going to bring a bunch of people from the UK. That could be on Matchroom with DAZN and be this big event, right? So, like, it's one of those things where the problem right now with Charlo, with Benavidez, with a number of these guys, they're really just not a big enough draw right now to fight with Canelo. You need to have people who are going to bring fans.
They're not bringing a whole country with them.
Yeah, well, or you're bringing the same fan base that Canelo's already bringing to the table.
Yeah,
right.
that makes a lot of
if you're
sense.
Benavidez, you guys are bringing the same sets of fans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you want somebody who's going to bring other people. So, like, Rocky Fielding will bring different people who aren't followers of Canelo. Caleb Smith will bring people who aren't followers of Canelo. So I think that Triple G obviously is a hard fight for Canelo. He's fought him 2 times. Both have been difficult. You can now sort of go up, expose yourself to a different fan base, pick up a belt in a different division, and you have competitors who will bring something to the table that are not Triple G, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it actually makes sense.
No, you're 100% right, and I think these are the conversations that the promoters are having with themselves, and saying who should we fight next? Well, who brings in the most people, and what's it worth, and what does it accomplish at the very end?
Yeah,
so that's a good point.
I also think though that from the perspective of if you're Charlo, it's garbage, right? Like you look at it and you're
initially,
like, hey,
that's what I said.
I've been the mandatory forever, right? I've been the mandatory for the belt. I didn't get to fight Triple G because he wanted to fight this guy and then this guy and then this guy. And now he doesn't have the belt, and you're telling me I have to fight him.
However, a fight with Triple G is, I want to say, almost just as good as fighting Canelo.
No, yeah.
Because that's still huge.
It's huge.
Because if you're Charlo, that's still a chance of a lifetime right there if you can beat Triple G. And then if you, not to say Triple G is going to lose, but if you can beat him with a statement, I mean, in just amazing fashion, a KO, or just dominate and show how much better you are. And imagine if Charlo beats Triple G and it makes it look easy, then he's going to say, "What's up, Canelo?"
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. At that point, a Charlo fight will be worth it, right? The moment he steps in and is able to do something phenomenal like knock out Triple G, everybody will know who he is. Right? And after that, Charlo will be the guy who knocked out Triple G, the thing that Canelo could never do, the boogeyman, right?
Yeah.
Like, Charlo knocked him out. Everyone will know who he is, and at that point, a pay-per-view fight with Canelo makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But right now, it doesn't, and I just don't think it makes sense for Benavidez or any of those guys. You have to – Canelo's kind of in a bad position where he has to keep fighting Triple G, or a star needs to be born somewhere else.
Yeah.
The problem is he's not like Mayweather. Mayweather could fight anybody and sell millions of pay-per-views, right? It doesn't matter who he fights. If Mayweather is fighting you or me, we would step in the ring, they would sell millions, right? Canelo has a lot of draw, but it's not that kind of draw. He can't just fight anybody and get millions and millions of buys, you know? So I think it's perfect.
Well, you know what else, too? I mean, Canelo's a big draw, but then you see him fighting Triple G, and you've got Mexican fans rooting for Triple G.
He has a lot of Mexican fans. Triple G does.
Yeah. And actually, there's a lot of kind of backlash, or just like pushback against Canelo, and because of the clenbuterol, and so a lot of the Mexican fans are kind of mad at him right now. So yeah, he's not that big of a draw, even though he is a big draw. So.
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely understand the sentiment. If you're looking at it going, hey, this is nonsense for Charlo, for sure. I totally get it, right? But I also think from a business standpoint, it makes a lot of sense for Canelo. The move makes a lot of sense for Canelo. Yeah. And before he fights Charlo, let's say they don't fight, Charlo and Triple G don't fight because Triple G declines it, you know what makes the most sense after winning at 168? Either fighting Caleb Smith or Triple G again, and probably Triple G again before you fight someone like a Charlo. You know what I mean?
Man, I think it would be amazing if Canelo stayed at 168 for a while.
Started cleaning it up there.
Yeah, I'm like, what? That would be crazy.
But he can win those belts. Like you look at Caleb Smith and you're like, he might be able to beat Caleb Smith, right? He certainly seems like he can beat Rocky Fielding. So it's like you look at it and you're like, okay, it starts to make a lot of sense. They bring fans from another part of the world, and they're guys that he could beat.
Yeah,
you know
that would be legend status right there.
You think so?
Hell yeah!
To clean up super middleweight.
Oh my god, that would be amazing.
Yeah, super middleweight,
all time great right there.
It's been kind of. I think it's been kind of light since Andre Ward left.
Well, and then I saw somebody post Andre Ward versus Canelo right after he said he's moving up, and they're like, what if this happened? I'm like,
No, it's been kind of light since Andre Ward left the division.
Yeah, and he never really commanded that much of a following either.
Andre Ward?
Yeah, he loved and liked by boxing purists, hardcore fans, but his popularity never kind of crossed over to that mainstream.
Not to pay-per-view status, I would say, but I would say that is something where if Andre Ward were to fight Canelo, that would be a pay-per-view attraction. I mean, just because of his...
But would be Ward's biggest fight ever. Biggest draw.
Yeah, it would probably be Ward's biggest draw. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say so. Meaning in terms of like, they didn't even fight on pay-per-view before.
Yeah, probably most money he'd ever make.
Yeah, it's the most he would make. His biggest fight was Kovalev, and they didn't even fight on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
They just fought regular HBO. So, but I think if Andre Ward comes out of retirement, it's going to be for cruiserweight. It's going to be a shot at either whoever wins this next cruiserweight fight, basically. Between Usyk and Bellew. Yeah. So whoever wins that fight, if Andre Ward comes out of retirement, it's going to be for that guy.
Yeah.
Whoever gets that, which I'll watch that too.
Yeah.